Hello everyone and welcome to Pennsylvania Outdoor Life. I'm Don Jacobs in the Pennsylvania Outdoor Life cabin in the bird section. Oh yeah, I'm in the bird section. I gotta tell you what, September 1st, middle of this week, starts the hunting seasons. Yes, there's an early goose season and of course dove hunting. Now, dove hunting is becoming a very important part of Pennsylvania. There's work being done on game lands to make sure that dove hunting is perfect. Now, Rich Briggs is with the Pennsylvania Game Commission, and we met up with him to talk about doves and what the Game Commission is doing to make hunting a little bit better.
So I'm the land manager in Columbia, Montour, and Northumberland counties.
Where are we today and what's going to be happening?
So today we're out on State Game Lands 226, Madison Township, Columbia County, and we're out here visiting our managed dove fields. The crew's out here manipulating some of the sunflower that we have present, and we're trying to get the grounds ready for the hunters next week. So about 3 years ago, we really started to focus on other hunting activities, aside from the traditional big game species, and we're really trying to focus on that reactivation, retention, recruitment, where we can get more hunters involved, or hunters that perhaps in the past, maybe they went dove hunting with their dad or their grandpa growing up. It's just another way to get folks out there. So this will be our third year on State Game Lands 226, where we've actually planted fields and manipulated them specifically for dove and dove hunters.
Now, I know it's not happening today, but talk about the burning. What's that whole concept and what were you burning those days?
Sure, so last fall we actually planted some winter wheat in these areas, and what that did is that was mature the beginning of August here, and we were able to actually manipulate that with prescribed fire, where it gets rid of pretty much everything but the seed. And so it burns it down to bare soil and there's just wheat seed left. And again, it attracts the dove into the area. Even before we start to manipulate the sunflowers, the doves start to become accustomed to the area and the food sources here.
They're not as pretty as I remember sunflowers.
Yeah, like we said, we try to plant them by May 15th, and so that gives them an opportunity to live out their full life cycle and start to dry out in preparation for this dove season. That way the seeds are available for a food source.
So you planted these, you let them get like this. Next thing is to chop them down.
Now we're going to mow them and get rid of some of the unwanted vegetation and scatter that seed around.
And there it is. There's the seeds, right?
That's it.
Boy, this is a smorgasbord for them, isn't it?
It is.
They'll hit over there, and
yeah, they'll hit it pretty fast and hard the next few weeks. While the seed's here and before the hunting pressure really builds up on them.
Right. And this goes back quite a ways.
Yeah, we have a total of, I think we had 7 acres of wheat. We have about 15 acres of sunflower here.
Wow. Wow. Well, I know your guys are chomping at the bit to get going, make some
yes,
noise.
Sir.
So let's let them go.
Okay. There's a lot involved. It goes off of the soil temperature, when we need to have the sunflowers to mature by. So we try to get everything in the ground by May 15th, and that gives the sunflowers a chance to live their full life cycle, come to maturity, and then start to dry out before the beginning of the dove season. And then at that point, and even leading up to the dove season, we try to start to manipulate it by mowing some of those fields, burning some of the wheat that we have planted, and it just exposes that seed for the dove and it brings them in little by little as the season draws nigh. Last week we mowed about a third of the field, and what that does, again, it scatters the seed and it reduces the cover and the vegetation out there. The dove like to have unobstructed access to these areas, and so we get all the vegetation low to the ground. The mowers scatter the seed, and that's what we're going to be doing again today. We do it in stages throughout the season, usually 3 to 4 mowings. That way we could spread out the intensity of the seed and the doves visiting the site.
You've already cut this stuff down. What's the purpose of the next mow then?
Yeah, so the skid steer went through and basically knocked it down, got it lower to the ground. So this Ford tractor here, we have a flail mower hooked up to it. Greg's gonna go through and that'll mow things even lower to the ground, and that flail mower is gonna grab those sunflower heads and really try to break them apart and distribute the seed evenly.
The dove are gonna come in, and since they're low to the ground, feel comfortable eating this stuff?
Exactly. They like the low vegetation. They don't like to be impeded on their way in or their way out. And again, this mower will really help scatter that, so they don't even really have to pick it off the heads as much.
How do you like that? This is really manicuring for doves.
It is. It's an intensive, practice we do specifically for dove. That's why we try to pick our fields, close to the building, areas where we can return the multiple times throughout the year that we need to.
Spend enough time in them.
That's right. We'll be doing wider strips and more strips as the season approaches and even during season. But you could see the difference, how it would be a little easier for a dove to come in here and utilize the seed source than it is in there.
And look at, there's different sized chunks of all these heads that we looked at before.
Yeah, there's seeds scattered about. We have individual seeds, we have pieces of head. And again, no vegetation that's really going to impede them.
And right to the wheat, so they could go from the wheat to here. And now you're going to add another strip of something. What are you going to do right here?
That's correct. So with dove, there's a few requirements. Obviously, they need a food source. They like clean seed where they don't have to work too hard for. They also need water. They need areas to roost. So a lot of the dead ash trees and the spruce trees here behind us, they spend their days in that. Then they also need bare dirt. They utilize that grit. So there's a lot of bare dirt around here, but we like to keep strips disked in specifically for that purpose. So we're going to run that down through here now as well.
So this is like the perfect environment for a dove.
We try to give them everything they need in this tight area so we could focus the attention of the hunters and the activity of the dove right in here.
The disc is just going to loosen up the dirt so they could find little rocks and stuff.
Correct. Yes, sir.
What are the populations of dove like? Can a guy expect to sit around some of these fields and see doves?
Absolutely, especially where the State Game Commission focuses their areas. We try to do it in agricultural areas. So the dove are already in the area, whereas if you just have a single field out on the side of a mountain, that might not be an area where you're going to find a lot of doves. So you'll get one or two passing through, but we try to focus on areas that are managed intensively for agriculture outside of the game lands as well. There may be quarries, there may be cornfields, maybe wheat fields, and the dove are in the area for that reason. And then when we add our fields to it and specifically manipulate them for that and keep other things in mind like roost trees that they need, a water source, some bare ground, all those things attract the dove in, and we try to really focus them in these areas.
Now, Rich did admit that this year there's going to be a little bit different setup because they mainly planted wheat. They couldn't get into some of their fields because of a lot of the water and the drainage and the wetness, but the fields are ready to attract doves. Good luck September 1st if you're going out. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.